What's going on, guys? Welcome to the NorCal Sports Report here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And today we have a very, very special show. We'll have special guest Jesse Naylor of Last Second Sports on to talk about the 49ers. We're going to talk about what went wrong, what went right, if you want to put it that way, and we'll break it all down today on the show. But like I said, the Niners lose a close game to the Seahawks, 20-17. They fall to 5-5 on the year. Is their season over, or can they rebound? The Warriors, they also fall to the Los Angeles Clippers, and they fall to 10-3, second in the West. We'll be talking about Cal football. Stanford with a thrilling win. San Jose State, 3C2A scores. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. You're listening to a NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Let's do this. What's up, you guys? Welcome to NorCal Sports Report here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports at our new time at 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And man, I'm stunned. This past Sunday was a big, big week for the 49ers. In fact, I would say it was a must-win against a division rival. And it didn't happen. And it was a lackluster game. It was a game in which, again, this team showed so many flaws. We're going to be joined today by special guest Jesse Naylor of Last Second Sports, also a host over on Four Man Front. And we're going to be talking about the Niners, about what they can do to turn this, to right the ship, if you will. And can they save this season? We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But before we get to that, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky, premium brisket beef jerky. It's the jerky that's on a whole other planet. You can follow them on Instagram over at Planet Jerky and place an order for that jerky over at planetjerky.net. This show is also brought to you by Seal the Deal Wax Seals. You can follow them on Instagram at SealTheDeal_Wax Seals, or place an order over at iesportsradio.com/Seal the Deal Wax Seals. And guys, remember to follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and over at IE Sports Radio on YouTube and on X as well. You can also go to iesportsradio.com, where you'll find the whole catalog of shows on IE Sports Radio as we cover the entire nation almost of sports. Every region you can think of, we have a show for that region, including this one, which is a NorCal Sports Report, which you can find if you go to iesportsradio.com/NorCal Sports Report. You'll find this show right here. So you don't want to miss that. And on top of that, you can go to iesportsradio.com/shop. We'll have merchandise there where you can help support the channel. Always good to check that out. You can follow me personally over at, let me pull this one up, NorCal Sports Report IE. That is the X account for the NorCal Sports Report. So I'm on there. And you can follow me on my personal account over at DreArea Sports on X, Instagram, and on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe as always. As always. So guys, we have a packed and loaded show for you. I can't wait to get to that. But before we get to that, let's take a break and go to our sponsor, Planet Jerky.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Nine minutes past the hour here on the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm joined today by the great Jesse Naylor, host of Last Second Sports. Jesse, what's going on, man? Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Andre. I do find it ironic that you have a sponsor called Seal the Deal, which is exactly what the 49ers are not doing and why we are in this situation where the San Francisco 49ers are 5-5. Don't you find the irony in that just a little bit?
I really do. And it's funny because it's the one thing they can't do. They can't seem to seal the deal. Maybe they have to buy some of Cecilia B's wax seals. Maybe that will spark some inspiration to close out these games. But it's one of their biggest problems. And I'm going to pull up a stat right now, right here. When I read this, I was like, geez, you got to be kidding me. The Bengals and the Niners are the top two teams that have allowed the most points in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. Now, not to mention, how many 10-point leads have the Niners got going into the fourth quarter? And it never feels safe. It never feels secure. And it goes back all the way to the Super Bowls. They've always seemed to blow a 10-point lead. And that's been one of their biggest problems. But this stat alone, if the Niners were able to win those games in which they lost to Seattle, the Rams, Cardinals, they had a chance to be 8-2. But it makes me wonder if they did win those games and they were 8-2, it almost feels like they would be pretenders at this point. They'd be a team that's heavily flawed, but somehow stumbled their way into 8-2, sort of like the Philadelphia Eagles of last year, where once we played them and we exposed them, then they completely fell apart. So maybe it's a good thing that we're 5-5. But it just seems like, why can't we just seal that deal and hold that lead through the fourth quarter? I mean, Jesse, you watch the Niners more than I do, and I watch it a lot. What are they doing wrong, or what do they need to do in order to protect these leads and secure these wins?
I mean, this is kind of a microcosm of Kyle Shanahan, right? I'm going to give you a couple stats of my own real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
San Francisco 49ers are the first team since 2000 to lose 3 division games while leading by 4 or more in the fourth quarter. Kyle Shanahan out of 125 qualified coaches with at least 40 games decided by 7 points or less, ranks 118th in win percentage. So now when you look at that in totality and then bring that to this season, it's not really that big of a surprise. It's just now the 49ers for the first time are playing in these tight games. The rest of the league does this, Andre. The rest of the league plays in close games. The 49ers are used to front running and blowing teams out. That's how they've been the years that they've made these pushes. Not a lot of close games, which is why when you look at like fourth quarter comebacks, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, they don't have a lot because they're not in that situation very often. And for the first time ever, the 49ers are continuously in that situation. You look at a team like the Chiefs that find a way to win most of those games because they're in it pretty regularly. And you've got a team like the 49ers that are not at all used to this. And so they're a fish out of water. They don't know how to win these close games. It really is an art. And also, this is when close games usually happen sometime in the playoffs, late in the playoffs, Super Bowl. And that's why they continue to falter. It's just they haven't mastered that art of winning the close game because they really haven't had to. And that's what I think we're seeing on display here.
But do you think it's a matter of it's on Kyle Shanahan, or is this something that it's the whole team? Is it Brock Purdy? What is it about these close games that we can't seem to win?
Yeah, I mean, it's here's the other thing is a game is four quarters, right? I know that we want to look at the fourth quarter and the 49ers give up more points than anybody else, other than the Bengals in the fourth quarter or the final couple minutes of the game, what have you, the last drive. But if they had taken care of business up until that point, it really wouldn't have mattered. How many missed opportunities did they have this last Sunday, for example, where they had a first down or a big gain, it got called back due to a penalty? The week before, they missed multiple field goals. Yeah, I mean, I think there's blame on everybody. Kyle Shanahan, you look at some of the play calls, they're wonky. Some of the decisions he makes, like he'll get the ball back with a minute and a half before halftime and totally take his foot off the gas. But when he gets it with 24 seconds left and inside his own 25, he's like, yeah, let's go for it. But then everything he calls is a deep route. It's like, well, you're probably going to throw a pick, if anything here. You're not doing anything safe. His decision-making is erratic to me. Brock Purdy certainly isn't doing him any favors. He's missing a lot of underneath throws that Brock Purdy would have made in the past. He's passing those up all year long. The defense obviously is struggling. I mean, really, this is a team downfall. But ultimately, Kyle's responsible for it all. And I think Kyle, a lot of the times, is looked at as an offensive coordinator where he'll get these passes from the fan base because they'll say something like, well, the offense is doing their job. That's what Kyle's here to do. Hold on a second. Is Kyle the offensive coordinator of this team, Andre, or is he the head coach of this team? Because if he's the head coach, then special teams problems are on Kyle. Defensive problems are on Kyle. Personnel problems are on Kyle, and vice versa. If those things are going well, he deserves all the credit in the world. A lot of times, though, we look at him like an offensive coordinator and we judge him. Oh, he should be fired because the offense isn't doing well. Or, oh, he should be coach of the year because the offense is doing its job. He's the head coach of this team ultimately, and he's judged too often like an offensive coordinator.
Well, and I would agree that when we look at Kyle Shanahan, we always look at the offense. How's the offense doing? Is the offense looking impeccable? Is the offense looking innovative? All this stuff. But in reality, all the aspects of a team falls on his shoulders. And to me, it all starts this year when Ronnie Bell dropped that pass against the Rams. Now, look, Ronnie Bell, I'm sure he's a great guy, and he's fighting for his job, but as a fan, you drop that pass, my first reaction was you got to cut him and make an example of, hey, look, if you cost us a game and you played the way he played, we can't just keep you on. But he didn't do that. He kept him. So I said, okay, that's a little weird. And mind you, this whole season, I've been a big supporter of Kyle Shanahan. But these little things just keep happening where I'm like, okay, I don't know why he kept Ronnie Bell, but okay, that's fine. He's a player, whatever. And then you have all the mistakes on special teams. And Brian Schneider is still there. And so if you allow these mistakes, you allow all these things to happen, but you're not holding anyone accountable, then to me it feels like the players they're not going to hold themselves accountable. Like, well, look, I mean, they're screwing up left and right. You got Deebo Samuel getting in a fight with Tabor Pepper, saying, as he tells Jake Moody to lock in, because there's so many mistakes happening and no one's holding anyone accountable. So with that being said, I think this is the first year where I would say I believe Kyle Shanahan's job is on the line. And I think he's on the hot seat right now based on how they are performing. And not only that, the fact that you have a guy like Ben Johnson out there who may be available as a head coach at the end of this year. And you look at what the Lions are doing right now. The Lions are they're tearing everyone apart. I mean, they're running up the score. And it's incredible to see what their offense is doing. It looks innovative. And so having said that, it's like, look, he can focus on the offense all he wants, but at the same time, he has to focus on all aspects of the game. And this is the first year in a while where it seems like the Niners are never playing 4 quarters of football. They'll play 2 quarters and then a bad third quarter, bad fourth quarter. Good first half, bad first half. Bad first half, good second half. It's just you never get a full 4 quarters of good football. And that's something that's been really bothering me. And so it's one of those things where you start to ask yourself, is it the team or is it the leadership? And is this the year where if the Niners don't make the playoffs, are they going to move on from Kyle Shanahan?
I don't think they're going to move on from Kyle. I don't. I think that Jed York loves Kyle. I think maybe a little bit too much. I definitely think if they don't make the playoffs, he should at least be on the hot seat going into next year. And we'll see how next year goes. But here's the interesting thing. When it comes to Kyle Shanahan and it comes to coaches like Ben Johnson, I love Ben Johnson. I've been talking about Ben Johnson for 2 years. Right? This is like year number 3. I've been hyping this guy up. Love Ben Johnson. But there's a lot that comes with trading out of Kyle Shanahan for Ben Johnson. First of all, there's no guarantee Ben Johnson wants to come here. There's no guarantee if Joe Burrow's available. Hell, if Caleb Williams in division is available, you might want to go with those guys. I'm not saying that Caleb Williams is better than Brock Purdy by any means. Joe Burrow certainly is. But the upside of Caleb Williams, the lack of pressure, so to speak, in Chicago versus coaching a 49er team that's expected to win a Super Bowl, that's an easier proposition for Ben Johnson, in my opinion. And I think a better option. You look at the 49ers realistically right now, they've got cap situations coming up. They've got a decision they got to make on Brock Purdy. They've got a lot of aging good players. There's a lot to, as a new guy, I don't know if I'm excited to take this job, especially if they do fire Kyle. Now, we look at it as fans, say, okay, well, look, firing Kyle, I get it. Maybe his message wore thin. They went 8-9. They didn't make the playoffs in a year that we expected them to win a Super Bowl. I get all of that. But as a coach looking in at the situation, you're going, hold on a second. This guy took you to 2 Super Bowls, 4 conference championships, and he has 1 season where he doesn't meet expectations finally, and you fire him? I don't want to be there. So it makes it really, really tough to just fire Kyle Shanahan. I definitely think he should be criticized, held accountable, all those things. I just don't personally think they're going to fire Kyle. And here's the other issue. The question comes in because I know a lot of 49er fans look at Kyle Shanahan and they say, hey, Kyle Shanahan's the issue, but I love Brock Purdy. Let's just get him a new coach. Imagine what he would do with Ben Johnson. Well, what if Ben Johnson doesn't want Brock Purdy?
Yeah, what if he's like, I want someone like Joe Burrow. Let's get rid of this guy. You
I
never
want
know.
my own guy. Yeah, exactly. So that's the other thing. There's no guarantee. And then if you're going to force Brock Purdy on the next guy, then you're not necessarily going to get the best coach. And so the issue becomes bigger than what it needed to be. So as much as, listen, I think there's guys out there I would love to get, multiple coaches that I like. I don't think that the 49ers are going to fire Kyle unless something pops off between him and the front office, or if the players are just coming forward saying, listen, we can't win with this guy. We're over it. It would take something big, more than just a losing season and missing the playoffs, in my opinion, for them to fire him. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if they moved on from John Lynch if the team goes 8-9 or something like that this year.
I think they definitely need to get or invest more money into their coaching staff, especially a defensive coordinator. I don't think Nick Sorensen has really been the answer all year. Now, look, a lot of us have been giving him time because, obviously there were stats that said that, Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans had rough starts to their year, but then they rebounded in the second half. But so far, we haven't seen that. In fact, there was a quote by Brian Baldy, saying, opposed to Steve Spagnuolo, and some of these other teams in this league, there are good blitzing teams. They just don't know how to get a free hit on the quarterback. They just don't dial it up. They don't overload. They don't disguise. So they're pretty bland in what they do. And I think even to just the average fan, they can see that you don't see a lot of blitzes from Nick Sorensen. I think you did see it in the previous game against Baker Mayfield. On the last drive, he kept sending blitzes at Baker Mayfield, and you saw a difference. Baker had to throw, under pressure. But in this game, we didn't see it again. Now, granted, Nick Bosa wasn't in the game, but you can't live off of Nick Bosa. Like, oh, well, if Bosa's out, we're fucked. You can't do that. You got to be able to put pressure on that quarterback and be innovative in how you do that. So I definitely think Nick Sorensen is not the answer. And now he's making Steve Wilks look like a top flight defensive coordinator. And that's ironic in itself because we were like, get him out of here. And now we got Sorensen, who doesn't look as good. But let's talk about Brock Purdy. Now, Brock Purdy was 21 of 28 for 159 yards, a touchdown, and 1 interception. He had an 85.3 quarterback rating. Now, he looked good at times, but this was probably one of his weaker games. Offensively, this was one of the weakest games of the year in total yardage for the 49ers all season. You had mentioned during the game in a tweet, or I should say a post, that JP Mason, he had the one carry where he looked explosive. He was making cuts, he was getting positive yardage, and then we didn't see him again. And every time we hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey, I love Christian McCaffrey, but I just didn't see that explosiveness that I saw from a season, a player that's gone through 10 weeks of football in JP Mason. And yet they want to keep McCaffrey out there. He had 19 carries for 79 yards. He also had He had 4 catches for 27 yards. It just seems like Kyle does not want to mix in Mason or Guerrero when McCaffrey is there. And why is that, do you think?
It doesn't make any sense, but it was completely predictable. I mean,
everyone knew it was coming. Everyone's like,
yeah, we knew it was coming. It was a big topic of conversation before CMC came back, and everybody hoped, like, okay, here's what a split should look like, and everybody had their percentages, like 50% CMC, 30% JP, 20% Guerrero, or 60-30-10, or whatever the number was. You know what I mean? So everybody had their favorable split, and Kyle's like, all right, 99-1. That's it. That's your split, and the 1 goes to Debo. Just so you know, it's not going to Mason. But I don't understand it. I really don't. And he is clearly not himself. And even if he was himself, as a 28-year-old running back at this stage in his career, why not look at what the Lions are doing? Can he not play the Jahmyr Gibbs role? 10 carries a game,
exactly.
8 targets a game. What's wrong with that? Why can't he do that? That, those routes that they've got 3 wide receivers, him and Juice on the field. How about just take Juice off the field, put Mason on the field, and put him on the field together? Why can't you do that? This whole thing doesn't make any sense to me. When you look at Kyle, when I look at this game, I had multiple issues with the personnel groupings. I had multiple issues with the route concepts. I don't know how many times you look at it and they've got like a 1st and 10, and you've got 3 routes being ran, and they're all like 17 to 25 yards downfield. Like, what are you supposed to do with that? Like, where's the creativity? You're running 3 clear out routes, and then you've got one guy leaking out of the backfield and going towards the sideline. It's like, well, wouldn't you run like a mesh concept, a crossing route, something underneath as you're pulling these linebackers away? But none of that. And then when Brock Purdy does have something, he's so hesitant because he's probably not used to having anything. And it's just everything is so complicated for this team. I don't understand it. I've never watch this team struggle so much to put up points. It is so bizarre to watch. And they have enough talent. They have enough talent.
They're loaded with talent. I mean, obviously, look, yeah, you're down Javon Hargrave, and this week you're probably going to be down Nick Bosa as well. You're hoping to get back Dre Greenlaw, which if they continue to lose, maybe he doesn't even come back this year. But I think if you're shooting for a game for him to come back, it'd be either against Buffalo or at home against Chicago. I think at home against Chicago is the right game to kind of pencil him back in, but we'll see what they do. But it doesn't make any sense because this team is so loaded with talent. It almost feels like the rest of the league has caught up with the Kyle Shanahan offense because it doesn't seem to be fooling anybody. Now you could argue, well, they didn't have Christian McCaffrey in this last game. They didn't have George Kittle. But you have to be able to overcome the loss of your tight end. You have to be able to overcome the loss of your running back when you have all these other weapons at your disposal. We talk about Deebo Samuel. He had 1 carry for -1 yards. It's like, whoa, dude, come on. And on top of that, his jet sweeps have not looked the same since like 2022. He can't turn that corner. He doesn't have that elusive ability that he once had. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just, time has kind of caught up with him because, when it comes to football players, after about 4 or 5 years, they do start to slow down. I don't know. But let me ask you, when it comes to Brock Purdy, do you think so far, is this the guy that you want to invest your money into? Like you want to give him the contract and stick with him? Or is this the guy that you're saying, hey, you know what? Maybe not yet. Because, I mean, you figure he could play, he could play his 4th year. They could franchise him. They have some options. If you're GM of the Niners, which way are you leaning towards when it comes to Brock Purdy?
Well, this offseason, I'm going to offer him something like Baker Mayfield contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he's not going to take it, and that's fine. And then I'm going to play it out. I'm going to force him to prove that he is that guy. Here's the problem. What do you risk if you don't pay him this next year? The only thing that you can potentially risk is that you pay him slightly more money the year after. So
right.
let's say the going rate is $60 million this offseason. Well, the salary cap's going to go up a little bit. He plays really good. He proves he's the franchise guy. So what's the going rate next offseason? 62 million? 63 million? I would rather pay 2-3 million extra per year and know for a fact I have the guy versus rushing to pay somebody that ends up not being the guy. Because if he ends up not being the guy and you've given him all that money, you've taken away any possibility of winning. And most likely he's not that guy. I'm not saying he can't get there. Of course he can get there. He's only in year 3. But, I mean, there's only 5 to 7 elite quarterbacks in the NFL at a time. The chances of him reaching that status based off of what we know, pretty slim to none. He looks closer to Baker than he does Josh Allen. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think Baker's a good quarterback, but I'm not paying Baker $60 million. I'm not paying Dak $60 million. I'm not paying Kyler $60 million or Kirk Cousins. I'm paying him about $45 million, and I'm feeling good about it.
Well, I would agree. I mean, when you compare him to like Baker Mayfield, I think Baker has a stronger arm than he does. So that's one thing that separates the two of them. Now, I think Brock is his athletic ability to run with the football, I think has been a game changer, not only for the Niners, but for him as a product, as his value has gone up because of his ability to run with the football. But to me, he's running an awful lot lately, which kind of seems like at first everyone thought, hey, this is great. He's a mobile quarterback now. But then after a while, you're like, wait a minute. Why is he running so much? Why is nobody getting open? Why are we last in separation for the receivers? There's all these things that are kind of adding up to why things are happening the way they're happening. Now, I would agree, $45 million sounds great because if he is the equivalent of Baker Mayfield, then yeah. Now, I think he's done some incredible things, but obviously, look, he's not Josh Allen. Josh Allen's incredible. Josh Allen's like, what, 6'5" or whatever. He could run with the football. He could throw the ball, like a cannon. And he freaking ran to win the game against the Chiefs. I was like, well, there you go. And then obviously you have Pat Mahomes, but I would say Mahomes is like the Steph Curry of football, or just having, and this is the thing too, is that when you watch teams, I don't care if it's basketball, if it's baseball, if it's football, when you watch teams that have an elite superstar, such as like a Steph Curry, LeBron James, Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, they can take over a game. They can dictate what happens. It's never too big for them. You know what I mean? They can overcome whatever's in front of them. And now, am I saying that Brock Purdy can't? No, I'm not saying that. But these guys are at an elite level. Now, here's the thing is that the Niners struck gold by getting him with the last pick in the draft. I mean, that's huge. If we drafted this guy with like the 10th pick in the draft, everyone would be like, yeah, this is probably what you get. This is on par. It's first round draft pick. That's great. But being Mr. Irrelevant, I mean, this was like money in the bank. Holy cow. And they really needed to win that Super Bowl last year, and unfortunately they did not. And I thought Brock Purdy played really well in the Super Bowl. There was nothing he did that I thought was like, oh, come on, dude. That last play, obviously, you know, when you have the massive person of Chris Jones running at you unblocked, I mean, you got to react quick to that. But I still think that Brock Purdy, unless you have a viable option, to me, I would bring him back. But yes, I would agree that $45 million to me sounds right. And I would agree that at this point, based on what he's done this year, because, I mean, face it, in sports, it's what have you done for me lately? And so I would say, hey, look, this is what I'm going to give you. If you don't like that, then we'll have you play on your 4th year, and we can also franchise you as well. So we have control of you for at least another couple of years. I don't feel like there's a need to rush into a fat contract with this guy. And I'm a huge Brock Purdy fan. Don't get me wrong.
No, I agree with that. But it's not just, this is where 49ers get really frustrated with this conversation, is obviously you cover NorCal sports, you know, 49ers, you cover everything, right? But I cover just the 49ers. But if you ask my opinion about CJ Stroud, let's say CJ Stroud was in a situation that he had to be paid at the end of this year. I love CJ Stroud. He was my number 1 pick last year. I thought it was clear. I don't understand what people saw in Bryce Young, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But I love CJ Stroud. Everything he's brought, I feel like he's got all the tools. He's got everything that you need to be great in this league. He showed it last year. He brought a team and the Texans that had no business making the playoffs, all those things. But CJ's struggling a little bit this year.
Yeah.
So if CJ was in the same situation as Brock, and he's not, you know, thankfully for the Texans, they don't have to worry about this. But if CJ was in the same situation, I'd be like, yeah, I want to see another year. Let me see another year. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that about a quarterback. Now, when you, or any player for that matter, but when you say it about a player that a fan base is passionate about, they get really, really, really upset. They get really tied to this player emotionally.
Yeah.
And I don't care who you are. I make this example all the time whenever you see 2 great quarterbacks go head to head, but we saw this on, I think it was Sunday Night Football. Was it Burrow and Herbert on Sunday Night Football, if I remember correctly? I don't know who in their right mind is watching that game and watching what those quarterbacks did, and then sits back and says to themselves, you know what I really want? I want a 6-foot quarterback who anticipates his butt off with a weak arm. That's what I really like. I mean, these guys are great. I love 6'6", rocket arm, mobile accuracy. I love all of that. But you know what? It's the cerebral guy that I really want. Well, who says that? This is athletics, man. I'm sorry. At some point, bigger, stronger, faster plays when you are in athletics. And Brock Purdy will never have bigger, strong. Now, he does have quickness. So the faster thing does play. But bigger, stronger, he will never have. And that's okay. Doesn't mean he can't be good or even great. But in order to be great, you have to be something that nobody else has seen. A lot of people make the comparisons to Drew Brees, which stature-wise, athletic-wise, great comparisons. Drew Brees is the most accurate passer of all time. In order for Drew Brees to be put into that category, he had to be the best in the world out of anybody who's ever done it to be put into that category. What does Brock do or show you that he can be the best in the world at it? Any one thing. And if you can name it and it means something when it comes to playing quarterback in the NFL, okay, maybe he can be that guy. I don't see it though. He doesn't have, I don't even think he's a top 10 passer as far as accuracy in this league. Completion percentage is not accuracy. Ball placement is accuracy. He struggles with ball placement. He does, and he has. He's not elite at anything other than short area quickness, and that's not enough to be an elite quarterback. He can be a good quarterback, but not elite.
Well, I think he's shown the ability to, in tight games and with big stakes, he can kind of rise that occasion. We saw in the playoffs how good he played when their backs were against the wall. So I think he has that kind of intangible. And I thought in the Super Bowl, he looked way better than he's looked in the past few games. Now, when we're talking about quarterbacks like a Josh Allen, I mean, these guys are the spitting image of like a superhero if they actually existed. I mean, these guys have all the talent in the world. So to me, trying to compare Brock to like, a Josh Allen or a Pat Mahomes or CJ Stroud, you really can't, because these guys are just at a more elite level. But I think that Brock has, obviously, we talk about, his ability to process the defense, process, his go through his progressions and all that. I think those are things that mentally a lot of quarterbacks can't do as well as Brock. Now, how does that translate? Well, we saw what he did last year. They had a phenomenal year, but this year, with a lot of the injuries, it hasn't panned out as well as all of us had hoped. And early on, he was actually leading the league in passing yards. So he does have really good stats. But to me, and it's weird to say this too, it's like I don't want to compare him to Josh Allen and these guys, because these guys were born at a higher pedigree than he was. But at some point, I guess you kind of have to, if you're going to be paying him the kind of money that these guys would command. So it's definitely a tough question.
No, but I do want to say this, just to be clear about this. Just because you're a great athlete, bigger, stronger, faster, that's not enough. You do have to be cerebral as well. I mean, Anthony Richardson, we'll see what he ends up being. It's still early in his career, right? But we saw it with Trey Lance, a great example of this. You can have all those traits, but if you can't make a decision in 2.5 seconds, none of it's going to matter. But the difference is that all the guys that we're talking about that are elite, that have all those physical traits, they can also make the decision in 2.5 seconds. So what is he bringing to the table that they aren't? There's nothing that Brock Purdy can do on the football field that Josh Allen can't, that Herbert can't, that Burrow can't, that Lamar can't. There's nothing, literally nothing. But there's a lot that they bring to the table that he doesn't. Now, again, that doesn't mean he can't be a good quarterback, but when you're talking elite, you're talking special. What are you bringing to the table that's special? And the answer, I'm sorry, is nothing.
Well, this is a topic, too, that causes a lot of debate, especially on X. And everyone seems to want to challenge you on this as well. So let me just ask you, are you a fan of Brock Purdy?
Yeah, I absolutely am. Yeah, I am. Listen, all the mail is out there for you. You can go search up my tweets from 2021, or I'm arguing with, everybody knows, if you know 49ers Twitter, you know who Rich Madrid is, right? Mm-hmm. Rich Madrid is a staple in the 49ers Twitter community. He and there's threads of me defending Brock Purdy as a college athlete and talking about, listen, man, right now I'm saying it in 2021, Brock Purdy is going to explode on the draft scene, saying it here before anybody else. He's a 2nd or 3rd round pick to me. That was in 2020. That was before he was on the 49ers. Then there's video of me celebrating when he got picked. There's Twitter spaces that are recorded with me celebrating when he got picked and like, listen, guys, you guys are sleeping on Brock Purdy. I'm just letting you know. So I can like a guy, but also be realistic about him. And again, like, we can remove Brock Purdy from it. There's a lot of conversations about me loving CJ Stroud or Jaden Daniels. Not on the 49ers. Love those guys. But they need to show me more. You don't get to skirt with one good year, an okay year, and then just get paid and think like, this is what you need. So yes, of course, I like Brock Purdy. And on a personal level, we have a lot of things in common as far as our religious views and all that. So I respect Brock Purdy. I like Brock Purdy. I also don't think he's elite. And that's where the conundrum comes in, because I'm supposed to be a fan, which means you have to think everybody's the greatest. It's just not the way it works.
It always sparks a big debate over on X. So let's talk about their upcoming matchup against the Green Bay Packers. I mean, at this point now, it's become a must-win. They're going on the road to Lambeau Field. I have a stat here that I was like, oh my God. The 49ers playoff odds per PFF. With a win at Green Bay, it rises to 52%. With a loss, it drops to 15%. Ouch. That's brutal. That's like season over. Good night. Now, we are in a weaker division, but we can't seem to beat these weaker teams. I mean, there are a few plays away from being 8-2. And it's crazy to think about that. You know, when you look at the Texans last night, they were 7-4. We could have been 6-4. You know, it's ridiculous how they've lost these games and how they've just given it up. And obviously, look, Devondre Campbell has not really been the right answer. Yes, he had like 7 tackles, but I thought against the Seahawks, he didn't look as dynamic. He's not a dynamic player. No. He's just a big linebacker who has some experience, but he's no Dre Greenlaw, that's for sure. Christian McCaffrey is not in midseason form. It almost seems like he's in preseason form because he hasn't been playing. When he gets the ball, he doesn't have that explosive ability. Now, is it because he's being cautious about both of his Achilles? Or is it that he's just not really in football shape at the moment? Because he's only played in 2 games. It's not like when he was not in these games, he was hitting the turf, running as fast as he can. No, I mean, look, they have some things that they got to shore up. But here's the thing. Going against the Packers, do you see the Niners being able to get a win in Green Bay?
I do think they can beat Green Bay. I don't know that I'm going to pick them to do so, but Green Bay is beatable themselves. They have their own struggles right now.
They almost lost to the Bears.
Correct. Jair Alexander may miss this game. He's a very important piece for them. Jordan Love there's another guy right here. I mean, maybe the Packers will be very happy that they paid Jordan Love, but we don't know for sure yet on Jordan Love. Jordan Love has some of the intangibles that maybe Brock doesn't, that I've talked about, but he can't protect the football at all. I mean, every game he'll give you 3 touchdowns, but he's going to turn the ball over at least once, probably 2, even 3 times. So he's got to clean that up in his game. The 49ers are going to have their opportunities. They're probably going to force a turnover or 2. And I think they can score on Green Bay. They have their flaws, but also, if Bosa doesn't play, I don't know how you're going to get pressure on Jordan Love. You look at that offensive line; it's one of the higher rated offensive lines in pass protection already. So if you don't have Bosa and you don't blitz, I don't know how you're going to get pressure on him. And if Jordan Love can just camp back there, it's going to be a problem. So I don't know that I'll pick the 49ers, but certainly, yes, they can beat the Packers. The Packers are a beatable team right now. I believe that.
And the last question, as we wrap things up on our segment for the 49ers, we're talking to Jesse Naylor, host of Last Second Sports. You can follow him on YouTube, Instagram, and X. Is this season salvageable? Do you think Kyle Shanahan and the coaching staff, the team, can salvage this season? Or do you think it may be time to look towards next season?
I said in the offseason that I would tear the team down. I would have done it this last offseason because the likelihood of you winning a Super Bowl was slim to none. And the longer you hang on to these contracts and these aging players, the further back you're setting the franchise, that you're turning the keys over to Brock Purdy, you're handing it over to these young guys. It's going to be a lot harder to build around them if you hang on to the Debos and the Kittles and the Trents and the CMCs. But I knew the 49ers wouldn't do that. I then made the claim again after the Chiefs game. I knew they weren't going to do it still, but I was like, hey, just remember, I did say this. Can they salvage the season? What does that mean? Salvage the season to me means, can you make the playoffs? And the answer is yes. But they're going to have to go bare minimum 5-2 down the stretch. None of those losses. They can't lose to Green Bay. They can't lose to the Rams. And they can't lose to the Cardinals. They have to for sure win those 3 and pick up 2 more along the way. And then they need some help as well to win the division. Because right now, as it stands, the Cardinals have 4 division games remaining. They have 0 losses. So even if the 49ers and the Cardinals end up with the same record and the 49ers beat them in week 18, unless the Cardinals lost twice more in the 2 Seattle games and the Rams game, it's not going to matter. They'll still own the tiebreaker. That game will mean nothing to the Cardinals. So we need, as 49er fans, need to hope that the Cardinals lose twice between the 2 Seahawks games and the Rams game. And then if the 49ers can beat them in week 18 and pick up wins along the way, they have a chance. But they need a lot of help. It's not likely, but it is possible.
The 49ers are currently have the second worst divisional record in the NFC, ahead of only the New York Giants. That's brutal. Wow. What has happened to this team? We'll see how it plays out for the rest of the season. Jesse, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and talking Niners. We'll have to do it again. Where can everyone find you and all your content?
You can just find me at Last Second Sports. Check me out there or on X at JNay_LSS. Andre, thank you so much for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Guys, when we come back, we'll be talking college football, Warriors, and some 3C 2A scores. You're listening to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you at the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide for your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Minutes past the hour here on the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And we're talking Stanford Cardinal football. Now, Stanford had a big game this past Saturday. They went up against the Louisville Cardinals, the number 19 ranked Cardinals. Now, everyone thought there's no way Cardinals are going to come in the farm, blow them out. There's no way. Well, guess what? Stanford pulled it off with a win, 38-35 over Louisville. Probably knocking them out of the top 25. Good job, Stanford. And they win 38-35. Let's take a look at the numbers. Ashton Daniels, 22 of 33, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Taylor Shaw, quarterback of the Louisville Cardinals, 26 of 39 for 270 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 pick. Ashton Daniels also ran 22 rushes for 34 yards. Cole Tabb had 11 rushes for 35 yards. Receiving-wise, Emmett Mosley, 13 catches, 168 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Baller status. And Stanford pulls off the win, 38-35 with a last-second field goal. And what a win it was for Stanford. They improved to 3-7 on the year. Louisville drops to 6-4 and likely out of the top 25. Let's jump on over to Cal Bears football. Cal went up against Syracuse, and they lost 33-25. Cal drops to 5-5 on the year. Syracuse improves to 7-3, and they're 4th in the ACC. Syracuse, that is. Fernando Mendoza, 22 of 34, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He threw for 225 yards. Whenever the Cal Bears go against a better team, a more established program, offensively, they don't show up. And that's been one of the problems for Cal. And they've had some close games, though, but they can't seal the deal, similar to what we were just talking about with Jesse Naylor, the San Francisco 49ers. The Jet, Javian Thomas, had 3 carries for 80 yards. His longest was a 75-yarder for a touchdown. Jade Knott had 11 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Bradley, 6 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. And the Syracuse, they win 33-25. Like I said earlier, Cal drops to 5-5, and Syracuse improves to 7-3. Now, Cal and Stanford are heading into a matchup between the two of them. It's the Cal-Stanford game every year. That should be fun to watch next Saturday. I'm hyped. That should be a good game. I see Cal pulling that one off. They should be able to pull that one off, and I think this is a growing year for Cal. I think they're going to be better next year. But I think this year they showed that they can hang with some of the big boys. Like they almost beat Miami. And Miami's a top 10 team. So hang in there, Cal. You'll get it together soon enough. And it's a team in which, I really thought that they were going to do something good this year. And I think they have proven that they can be competitive with some of the top teams. But unfortunately, a lot of these games haven't gone their way. But I think Fernando Mendoza is going to, continue to progress. And I think he's going to improve. I think the team themselves are going to improve. So I look forward to seeing what Cal does next year. Now let's jump on over to San Jose State football. They got rocked by Boise State, number 13 ranked Boise State. This was a big test for San Jose State. I thought they had a chance to really, be in this game. Unfortunately, after the first quarter, they were up 7-0, which I was like, all right. Going into halftime, it was 14-14. But the game ended up being a blowout. Boise State won 42-21. San Jose State drops to 6-4. Boise State improves to 9-1, number 13 team in the nation. Walker Eggett, 34 of 50 for 446 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Maddox Madsen for Boise State, 22 of 30 for 286 yards and a touchdown. Floyd Chalk, 13 carries for 37 yards. Nick Nash, 9 catches for 126 yards. Baller, 1 touchdown. And Justin Lockhart, 10 catches for 172 yards and a touchdown. Great games through the air, but unfortunately for San Jose State, it ends in a loss as they drop this game 42-21. San Jose State falls to 6-4. Boise State improves to 9-1. Now let's jump on over to the Golden State Warriors. Now the Golden State Warriors have been one of the surprising teams this year in the NBA. They went up against the 8-7 LA Clippers, and they lost 102-99, and they dropped to 10-3 on the season. And they dropped to second in the West. But I think when it comes to Golden State, we've seen a lot of good things from Golden State. They have a deeper team. They're better defensively. They can score and hang with the big boys. They took out OKC. They took out Boston in Boston. They took down Washington. One of the teams that they've lost to twice is the Clippers. And I think this is a case where it's a bad matchup for Golden State. The Clippers seem to have their number this year. And it's been hard for them to run their offense and run their defense against the Clippers. One of the main reasons is Zubac. He had 8 points, 17 rebounds. Jesus. James Harden. You're like, well, he only had 12 points, but he had 16 assists. My God. Norman Powell. I mean, this guy, he couldn't miss a three-pointer. He had 23 points. Amir Coffey, 15. Terrence Mann, 10. The bench came through for the Clippers. And like I said, I think it's just a tough matchup for Golden State. For Golden State, Draymond Green had 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 9 points. He nearly had a triple-double. Great game from Draymond. Wiggs, 22 points. Stephen Curry, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 26 points. But not enough from the bench. Podziemski only had 1 point. Not enough. Kyle Anderson, 2 points. Gary Payton, 0 points. So again, it just didn't feel like the bench was able to contribute enough. And with the loss of DeAnthony Melton, with Kevon Looney being out with an illness, it was tough. And Melton's been playing really good this year as a starter in the 2-guard position. But unfortunately, the Warriors could not overcome that. And I'm sorry, Buddy Hield, he's had a great season, but lately he's begun to come down back to earth. And I thought for a minute, man, this is the next coming of possibly of, like what we saw for Klay Thompson. He's got, Steph's got another splash. Splash Brother. But it isn't. It isn't. Unfortunately, it's not. But he had 8 points. But if you look at the previous games, right? We started off with 22, 27, 8, 28, 21, 27, 20, 16. And then all of a sudden, 3 points, 8 points, 14, 18, 8. So his shooting has kind of gone back down to earth. But overall, though, I think defenses are now accounting for him and pushing him off the line. Running him off the line, I think is the correct term. But this team is very deep, and I love to see what this team can do moving forward into the season. Their defense is extremely good. Suffocating defense. I love what Lindy Waters is doing as well. He had 6 points. Starting. And the Warriors have done a lot of good things this year, and I think they've proven that this is a team to reckon with because of their depth. They have so many guys. They have 12 to 13 guys they can throw at you every night. While a lot of teams, they're running 7, 8 guys at you. So the Warriors have the depth they need to go deeper into the year. They're already 10-3. They're off to a great start. But I still believe the Warriors are one superstar away from being true championship contenders. Kuminga, 19 minutes, 12 points. Wiggins is having a really good year, but it almost feels like they need somebody else. I love Jonathan Kuminga, but we need another big scorer. And Wiggins is not consistent enough to do that. He's doing it this year, but he didn't do it last year. Will they make a move to acquire another superstar to help this team get to a championship? I don't know. I think they're going to try to do something. There's been a lot of talk about the possibility of Giannis Antetokounmpo coming to the Warriors. That the Warriors could be looking at trying to make a multiple team trade to bring him to Golden State. The one thing I would say about this is that I don't want them to give up their depth, because I think that's what's going to end up happening. I think you have to get another team involved so that you're not gutting your roster to get this guy. Now, we know that in this past offseason, their number one goal was to get Lauri Markkanen and Paul George, and they failed on both accounts. But they were able to put together a very deep team and a good defensive team as well, thanks to Jerry Stackhouse, who's their defensive coach. But if Steph Curry goes down, if he gets injured and he misses an extended amount of time, who becomes your next scorer? Who's your next leader on this team? Is it Jonathan Kuminga? Is it Andrew Wiggins? I don't know. Is it Buddy Hield? Who is the guy the team can lean on if Steph Curry is not there? And that's the biggest question I have for the Warriors. Yes, you got off to a great start, and I love seeing it. But who is going to be that next guy to step up? Who's going to be that next superstar that steps up if Steph Curry goes out? That's why acquiring a guy like Giannis would be huge for this team. Now, likely if he did that, he'd probably have to give up Kuminga, Podziemski, and probably Moody. Who knows? And that's gutting your team. But is it worth getting Giannis Antetokounmpo? I think so. You only have a handful of years left with Steph Curry. Do you go all in on this year and say, hey, look, let's do it. Let's get the superstar. Let's shoot for the championship. Or do you say, let's roll with the team we have because we're making a difference already. We're competitive. Offensively, defensively. We're a problem for a lot of teams. But are they going to be able to be competitive enough to defeat teams like the Denver Nuggets, OKC, in a 7-game series? I don't know. I think it'd be very, very tough for them to take on these teams with bigger centers. Look at when they go against Zubac, 17 rebounds. And they never looked comfortable. They never looked fluid defensively. Giving up open threes left and right. And that's one of the biggest things is that they have to compete with teams that have strong big men. I love Trace Jackson Davis, but not having Kevon Looney off the bench definitely hurt. Trace played 19 minutes, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal and a block. While Zubac had 17 rebounds. I mean, oh my God. God forbid we go against a team with a good center. So that's where they're at. Now, are they going to target Antetokounmpo? I don't know. I hope they do. But I think we have to start looking at who are the targets that are out there that we can trade for and acquire to push this team to the next level. Already they're playing very, very good. But I still feel like they're one more player away from being true championship contenders. Because even when they won it against the Boston Celtics, yes, you had Steph Curry. Yes, you had Draymond. But you also had Jordan Poole. And Jordan Poole was, my God, he was like the next coming of Steph Curry that year. And you had Klay Thompson. Who are those players on this team? Is Buddy Hield the next Klay Thompson? Is Kuminga the next, is he the Jordan Poole of this roster? I don't know. His shooting has gotten better, Kuminga? Or is this a player that you say, you know what, let's package him up and let's bring in a bigger talent? That's what the Warriors have to decide going into the trade deadline. Because right now we're off to a great start at 10-3. And I can't wait to see what else they do this year as they head to Atlanta in the game tomorrow night. Definitely check that out. Warriors dropped to 10-3, second in the West, dominating in the NBA. Very, very competitive. Still think they're at least one player away from being true championship contenders. How about the Sacramento Kings? They were 8-7. They lost to the Hawks, who were 7-8. They lost 109-108. The Kings, they got a good team, but at 8-7, they got a lot to shore up, so definitely we'll keep an eye on them. And how about the Sharks? Switching gears, going to the Sharks. Sharks won. They beat Detroit last night 5-4. They improved to 6-10-4. Still been a rough year for the Sharks, but they're starting to win some games, so that's kind of cool. Let's jump to some 3C2A scores. How about it? Sierra took on Butte. Butte won 35-28, and they improved to 9-1. Look at Butte. Just killing it. Absolutely killing it. El Camino. They went against Allen Hancock. Allen Hancock slapped them across the face. They won 56-20. Hancock improves to 6-4. El Camino drops to 7-3. We're talking 3C2A football scores. Santa Rosa. What? They took on Shasta, and they lost 40-35. Santa Rosa drops to 2-7. Shasta improves to 3-5. San Jose, they took on Hartnell, and they won 56-14. They improved to 7-2. Hartnell 1-8. Woof. They're having a tough year. Modesto took on Sequoias, and they won by a final score of 35-7. Modesto improves to 7-2. Sequoias drops to 6-4. Sac City versus Contra Costa. What? My alma mater. Game was canceled. God damn it. Hang in there, Sac City. You'll fly another day. San Francisco took on Diablo Valley. They won by a final score of 28-24. They improved to 3-7. Diablo Valley drops to 5-5. Kind of like the 49ers. 49ers. Anyway, American River. They took on Feather River. 2 rivers, 1 winner. American River, 48-21. They improved to 8-3. Feather River drops to 1-10. Right on, American River. And Merced took on Monterey Peninsula, and they got shellacked 63-0. Monterey Peninsula improves to 9-0. Merced drops to 2-7. And that's going to wrap up the scores for the 3C2A. Check out 3C2A.com for all the scores, or just watch the NorCal Sports Report to get all your scores for 3C2A. It's fun to watch these guys. Okay, so like we always do here on the NorCal Sports Report, we're going to go back to 49ers. And let's talk about their upcoming matchup against the Green Bay Packers. This is a game they have to win. No doubt, they have to win this game. They almost have to win out the rest of the season. As I said earlier, according to PFF, the 49ers playoff odds, with a win, they improve to 52% chance of making the playoffs. If they lose, it drops to 15% chance to make the playoffs. The Niners need to start winning games that are winnable. And I think the Packers are beatable. But Kyle Shanahan cannot heavily lean on Christian McCaffrey as much as he has. I mean, yes, he had 19 rushes for 79 yards, but you got J.P. Mason, who led the league in rushing. You got to utilize him. You got to. Same with Garendo as well. You have to change things up. You can't just be a one-dimensional team. Now, look, they'll be getting George Kittle back, which is going to help. And I think they have a chance to really beat the Green Bay Packers. I think they have a chance to win out, to be honest with you. The two teams that I see them having a hard time against, obviously the Bills, because they have an elite team, elite quarterback, and Josh Allen. And the Detroit Lions are going against the Detroit Lions. I mean, they're freaking running teams over right now. So that's going to be a tough win for them. But looking at defensive rankings, overall defense, Niners ranked number 6. Guess who's ahead of them? The Chiefs. Oh, damn it. But Niners are ranked number 6. The Packers are ranked number 12. In terms of passing defense, Niners are ranked number 8, giving up an average of 197 yards. The Packers are ranked 13th, giving up about 207 yards. So again, we're showing that and we do this every week. And there's plenty of teams that are not good at pass defense, like the Buccaneers, yet they were in the game all the way through. And that's one thing about the Niners. I will say this, and it's one thing I forgot to bring up when we had Jesse Naylor on the show. The Niners have been in every one of these games. They've never had a game this year. I should say they never. They haven't had a game this year where they've been blown out. So it shows you that they've been competitive. They just come out on the losing end of a lot of these games, especially when they're blowing leads in the fourth quarter. And that falls on Nick Sorensen, but ultimately falls on Kyle Shanahan. He's got to make the adjustment to win these games. Okay, rushing defense. Niners are ranked number 8. They were ranked number 6 at one point. The Packers' rushing defense is ranked number 14. We have a better run defense than they do. Packers are giving up 119 yards a game. And I really believe that this offense needs to be a two-headed monster. You got to have both J.P. Mason and Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, I'd love to see Guerendo as well. But look at what the Detroit Lions are doing with Montgomery and Gibbs. That's something the Niners need to incorporate into their offense, having a two-headed monster at running back. And they don't. They just continue to run McCaffrey out there. But to me, he's shown that he's not quite the player that he was last year because he's still getting into midseason form. He's only played in 2 games. And that's tough. That's tough for anybody. Any player, really. So they have to shore that up. Scoring defense, Packers are number 10, Niners number 16. Red zone defense. Oh, boy. The Niners are ranked 23rd in red zone defense. The red zone TD rate is 62.5. Ouch. Packers are ranked 19th at 58.8. So both teams don't defend the red zone all that great. How about third down defense? It's where the Niners have struggled. They're ranked 25th in the league out of 32 teams. They got to improve on that. Packers are ranked 13th. So something to look at. Something to look at, but there's more stats as well. These are all courtesy of Fox Sports. Go ahead and check that out when you get a chance. What about the offensive side of things? So let's take a look at that. Offensively, the Niners still have the second-ranked offense in the league, even though they had a dismal game. They have a better offense than the Lions when it comes to offensive yards per game. Now, granted, the Lions have 42 touchdowns. Niners only have 25. So if you're basing it on yards, yeah, we average more yards, but they average more touchdowns. More touchdowns means more wins, obviously. But the Packers have struggled as well. They have the 4th-ranked offense in total offense. They average 388 yards, and they only have 28 touchdowns. Passing-wise, we have the number 4 ranked passing offense. Packers have the number 9 ranked passing offense. And then rushing offense, we're down to number 7. The Packers, am I just not seeing it? Are number 4. That's going to be a problem because the Niners' run defense has not been that great. They're probably not going to have Nick Bosa. So this is going to be an even tougher game for them to stop Josh Jacobs and the Packers running attack. It's not good. It's not good. Scoring offense, we're number 8. We should be number 2. But we can't score touchdowns, especially in the red zone. The Packers and Niners are tied for number 8 in scoring offense. We can move the ball. We just can't score. It's frustrating. Red zone offense. I mean, I don't need to go over this again, but fuck, might as well. Niners are ranked 26th. Packers are ranked 27th. They're like mirror images of each other. Third down offense. Niners are ranked 4th with a 45.4% third down rate. The Packers are ranked 22nd. So they struggle a little more on third down. We're interested to see how the Niners handle them defensively. Let's go into scoring predictions. Do I think the Niners can win this game? Yes, I do. And if they win this game, I think they'll win by the final score of 24-21. That's my score prediction for the game. The Niners have to win this game. If they lose, their playoff chances drop to 15%. They have to win this game. There's no ifs and buts about it. They have to win. And they're going to be in Lambeau at an early start time at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Is it? Actually, you know what? I could be wrong about that. Let's find out. Just so everyone knows what time we're watching this game. Actually, I was wrong. It's at 1:25 p.m. Pacific time, 4 o'clock Eastern, so they get the normal start time, which is going to help the Niners. They don't have to do that early start time. So, like I said, if the Niners pull out this win, it's going to be 24-21 49ers. But they got to pull it together. They got to shore up all of these penalties. The offense needs to get humming. But we have enough talent to win this game. But we'll see how that plays out as we move forward here in the NFL season. As the Niners look to get back into the playoff hunt. I hate seeing them in the outside looking in. But right now, that's where they're at. So we'll see how the Niners rebound after this loss to the Seattle Seahawks this past Sunday. Guys, that's going to do it for the NorCal Sports Report. I want to thank everyone who came on. I want to thank Jesse Naylor, who came in and dropped some serious knowledge on the 49ers. I want to thank Larry B for putting this show together. I want to thank Jen, one of the best producers out there. Warriors are kicking ass and taking names, and they go on to face Atlanta tomorrow night. Definitely be watching that. The Niners, they go on the road to take on the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field Sunday at 1:25 p.m. Pacific time. Can the Niners rebound off their loss to Seattle? Can they get back into the playoff hunt? And can they be the team they were last year? We'll find out this Sunday coming up. Stanford, Cal, go one-on-one. I'm taking Cal, but we'll see how that game shakes out. Can't wait to cover it next week. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Guys, make sure you follow me at DreArea Sports on X. Subscribe to my channel, DreArea Sports on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to the IE Sports Radio YouTube channel, as we have countless shows going every single week, every single day, covering the nation of sports. Guys, you're listening to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll see you guys next time.